Certainly when Joe Biden went to Penn, Communist China paid millions of dollars to fund what he was doing. Communist China, we also know, paid Hunter Biden and the Biden family millions of dollars. And so there's a long history of Communist China writing checks. The fact that University of Delaware is trying to keep these documents secret, in fact, it said it's not going to release any of them until 2 years after Biden leaves public office, I think that's unacceptable.
And that was Texas Senator Ted Cruz with me yesterday on Sunday Morning Futures. He's calling for the Department of Justice to investigate nearly 2,000 boxes of Biden documents that were donated to the University of Delaware, raising the possibility of China funding the archival of potentially top secret information here in Delaware. Joining me right now is the Washington Examiner political and investigative reporter Sarah Westwood. Sarah, it's pretty incredible that Biden donated 1,850 boxes. I'm told that this is enough data and documents to fill 2 tractor-trailer trucks. And we don't know what those documents are. The key here is that the University of Delaware will not release the so-called gift agreement. That is the agreement with the funder of the archival and the maintenance of those documents. We don't know if it's Communist China the way it was Communist China for the University of Pennsylvania. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's hard to see an academic institution, a liberal-leaning one, protecting a Republican president from potentially self-perpetuated harm by mishandling classified documents. I mean, look, we know that the Biden team did not handle his Senate documents properly, all of them, because some classified information from his time as a senator was found in his Wilmington home. It's not just papers from his vice presidency that were treated carelessly. You know, first from Biden's lawyer, we heard this line that, you know, the Trump team was forcing Biden to move out of his office so quickly, the Pence transition team, that they packed everything up and, you know, some documents got misplaced. Well, this was a culture of lax treatment of classified documents because some of them stretching back many years before that surfaced in Wilmington. Classified documents have been found just about everywhere Biden's team has looked for them. So for the university to block, you know, a legitimate search of documents when there is probable cause to believe that some could be among those papers, it just shows there are a lot of people running interference for Biden right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's also 415 gigabytes of electronic records. These are called the Biden records, donated by President Biden to the University of Delaware. I mean, my real concern is more about the China element. The Chinese Communist Party has been pretty vocal about wanting to be the #1 superpower, overtaking the United States, and they've been stealing intellectual property, really embedded in many of our academic universities, Sarah. So what are they getting, and what did they get from these classified papers? We don't know.
There's so few safeguards for Chinese influence in academia. I mean, it's a problem that Republicans are talking about more and more. The Penn Biden Center, that was housed in the Washington, D.C. office where the first batch of classified documents were found, has had links to Chinese funding through the University of Pennsylvania. So there's concerns there about what sort of influence was done on that center's work, you know, who had access to those offices. And, of course, those same questions can be asked of the documents at the University of Delaware, and we don't really know how those are being stored and who has access to them, much like we don't know what went on at the Wilmington House or the Washington, D.C. office.
Right. And now Ted Cruz told me he wants these searched by the FBI. Then there's the latest Twitter files. I mean, this stuff is just extraordinary. You can't make this up. The latest edition of the Twitter files exposes the Russian bot narrative. Reporter Matt Taibbi says that the group Hamilton 68 created countless news stories about how Russia was influencing Americans on Twitter. But in reality, the group wasn't actually tracking any Russians at all. Instead, internal emails show that Twitter executives were aware that Hamilton 68 was just falsely accusing anyone who had any right-leaning accounts of being a Russian bot, Sarah. And this was going on and on at Twitter. And they just went with it, you know, directed by the FBI and the DHS and the CIA and all these other agencies.
I remember how frequently Hamilton 68 was cited as a source back in 2016. And, you know, Twitter had no problem speaking out publicly against sources of disinformation, quote unquote, things that they considered or tried to label as disinformation during that time period. And the emails from the Twitter files show that Twitter executives knew internally that that tool was being misconstrued and abused by partisans and in the media to paint a false narrative. But they stayed silent and, very importantly, didn't, you know, suppress the spread of that information on their platform, even though they recognized that it was essentially a lie. And so it just shows how their lines about how they're trying to protect people from harmful misinformation isn't true, because they were happy to let misinformation run rampant when it served their political narrative.
Well, I remember it well because I was among those saying that there was no Russia collusion and getting trashed. I mean, Joe Pinion, way in here, all of the reports were actually truthful about no Russia collusion. And Twitter still let these people, amplify lies.
Well, let's be very clear. They also effectively turned a blind eye and allowed the U.S. government to spend millions upon millions of dollars on 2 volumes of a Mueller report trying to figure out if the election was swayed by rubles and Russian bots on a platform that was proposing to be an open square. So I think, Sarah, to that point, I mean, how do we actually get back to the point where we have institutions like Twitter, like Facebook, that we have granted these protections to, but at the same time have effectively created a backdoor to collude, to quash the freedom of speech in violation of our constitutional God-given rights?
All of these things erode trust in our institutions, right? I mean, to the extent that people are still paying attention to the Twitter files and, you know, the narrative is breaking through a mainstream media that doesn't really want to cover them, how do you ever trust a platform like that with so much power and influence to effectively police, you know, harmful information when you know that they are sort of putting their thumb on the scale there? I mean, set aside the question of collusion was sort of separate from the question of whether Russia influenced the 2016 election, right? And we know now that the collusion narrative was always something fabricated by the left. But even when that fell apart, Democrats continued to point to the so-called, you know, involvement of bots and Russian playing on social media, trying to influence the election, saying, well, even if Trump didn't condone this or didn't actively participate in it, you know, Russia still compromised the election. And now we're finding out that even the very foundations of that narrative are also untrue. Every part of that narrative has collapsed.
Unbelievable. And Adam Schiff was the lead liar running around telling us collusion was in plain sight. And now he's complaining that he's got kicked off the Intel committee. Sarah, it's good to see you. Thanks very much. This is just too much. Sarah Westwood joining us this morning.